Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Clarity Project. This is whatever episode I'm on now, but but I'm enjoying it. Let's do this. So yesterday, recently I learned that P. Terry's. Now, if you aren't aware, P. Terry's is a burger chain. Well, I know that they have some in Texas. I don't know if they have any anywhere else, but they are phenomenal. Really good prices for really good food. And honestly, if you haven't tried P. Terry's, if you have one in your town, give it a shot. If you don't, go somewhere and give it a shot. Even if you have to drive 3 hours, it's definitely, well, I don't know about that, but it's, if you ever get the chance to, just try it. But there's a secret special menu item that I recently learned about, called the P Scary. Now, if you aren't aware of the P Scary, of this secret special menu item, the P Scary is a burger with 4 patties. Yes, I said it. 4 freaking patties. This thing is huge. I mean, like, I don't. That's actually pretty much how big it is. I can hold it in both of my hands just like that, and I got it yesterday. So P. Terry's was doing a disaster relief where all of the proceeds for the day were going to programs that were helping with the floods that had happened in Austin, Texas, or near. That's where I am. I wanted to get a P. Scary and came back home. I was excited because I had just got done with rock climbing and I hadn't really eaten that day. And so I was excited. And so I got home, told my friend that, sorry, there were no milkshakes. They had ran out of milkshakes for the night. And I couldn't get him the milkshake that he so wanted. But I went into the kitchen, or the dining room table, right here. This thing. You see that? You see that? That is exactly where I sat. And I started eating this thing. And oh my gosh. Bite after bite, I held no regrets. There was nothing on my mind but that P. Scary and its deliciousness in my mouth, on my lips. It was fucking amazing. 4 patties, and 2 minutes later, that thing was gone. And I went to Billman, and I said, dude, that was fucking delicious. And he looks at me, he goes, you finished that thing in 2 minutes? Dude, oh my gosh, so fucking good. But anyways, I do have some stuff in my fridge, but it was a disaster relief program. How could I not give back to the community? And I really didn't want to do anything with food at 11 at night. And so every now and then, because there's so much stuff, especially when I have people over, like one of my friends, Leo, he and I like to cook a lot. And so we do different things, and we just buy a shit ton of stuff. And like this weekend was probably the most full that fridge has ever been. Like normally it would be just Bowman, and he probably stocks up the same way a college person, like a college student, would stock up their fridge, or just a typical male living alone in their apartment. You know, and I don't know if you know exactly what this means, but this means like a loaf of bread. You know, he has some cheeses, some hams, some meats, some proteins, rice, you know, sausages. And there's not that, some beers, of course. And there's just not that much. But this past weekend, there was a lot of shit. There was strawberries, cantaloupe, a shit ton of grapes, shit ton of groceries. And sometimes I just find it hard to figure out exactly what works in recipes and meals and what doesn't. And it's hard for me to remember what I've done for like old recipes and stuff. And sometimes I forget. Like, it almost feels like I have forgotten how to cook. Like if I have shit, that actually reminds me. Hold on, I need to put my meat out to defrost. Give me 1 second. Anyways, I am so sorry about that, but sorry, it's because I tried to meal prep to make it easier for me to eat, and I forgot that I needed to take the meat out so we can defrost. But anyways, back to the I got sidetracked, and sometimes it's almost as if though I forget how to cook and what the times are for cooking. Like if I need to like boil something, then how long does it need to be boiled? Or if I need to cook, let's say salmon. See, I've done salmon so many times that I now know that it takes about 3 to 4 minutes per side at medium to high heat for it to be properly cooked. But sometimes I still just forget, even though I intuitively know, just because I've done it a lot, because I enjoy salmon. I freaking love salmon. Salmon is probably one of my favorite dishes to cook. It's so fun to cook, and it's so when you eat it, it just falls apart, and it's so easy to work with. But this is not a cooking video. This is not me telling you how I cook my stuff. This is me telling you how I actually forget how to cook, and some of the ways that help me, or some of the things that I just do that are random. Like, I don't know if you guys ever take an old recipe and just decide to completely just fuck with it. Something you know that is true, works all the time, very consistent, but you're like, man, I want something new. And you just try something new. And if it goes well, it goes well. And if it doesn't, then you're kind of fucked there. But hey, I have tried new things, and me and Bowman have eaten those new things, and let's just say sometimes the result, no one got sick. Thankfully, I would never wish that upon anyone, obviously. But let's just say the quality wasn't there. I hadn't chefed it up in those during those times, and usually I like to. So I usually like to cook complex meals. So I'll go the whole 9 yards, right? I'll do the actual protein, I'll do the carbs, and I'll do the veggies. I'll do the whole 9 yards. I'll make a sauce if I need to. When I cooked some salmon a couple weeks back, I had made a nice sauce for it. I had some, if you guys, there's a German side dish called Knödel. It's a potato dumpling, and it goes well with some sauce. It goes well with some sauce, but one of the days I had forgotten to make the sauce, and I had some leftover sweet and spicy spread. And decided to use that. Had some salmon, had some Knödel, and then obviously some veggies, some broccoli, whatever it is. And that was just phenomenal. But sometimes it just happens where you try to get creative, and sometimes it just doesn't work. But sometimes it works out phenomenally, and you start doing that, and it's just And I think that is how homemade recipes are made. You know, like recipes that have been in the family for ages that no one else outside the family knows. I'm Hispanic, and every Christmas, me and my family, or my family, makes tamales. And one of the times I'd got some to go back when I was going back up to Dallas, and me and some friends went on a climbing trip. And to context this a little bit further, me and Leo had talked about eating tamales and eating good tamales, like authentic tamales, versus anything store bought. And so on the side of the road was someone. We were going to Florida, and on the side of the road was someone selling some tamales, and we were like, "Hey, let's give them a go." Well, long story short, we didn't end up eating those tamales And I ended up going back home for the holidays and getting some tamales for my family to go for just in general. And we went on a climbing trip with some friends, and I gave them tamales. And let's just say that those homemade tamales were phenomenal. Phenomenal. There's nothing like them, nothing like homemade food. But it's those recipes that, are homemade, that have been in the family for ages, that no one else knows, that are just, I think it all stems from people being creative and trying new things with recipes, especially people who love to cook. Like, I enjoy cooking, but as far as my creativity goes with food, sometimes I'm a little worried that I might end up like causing some sort of disease for myself just because I mess something up. But I don't know. We'll see. But also, sometimes if I'm lacking creativity or I don't really want to think too hard about what I want to cook, I will go to ChatGPT and I will just ask for some recipes, especially when it comes like I did this a lot in Dallas where I would chat GPT some meal prep recipes, and I'd give it some of the things in my arsenal of kitchen food in my food arsenal. Yeah, some ingredients that I had. And I ask it, be like, hey, give me some recipes, please. And sometimes you gotta be careful because sometimes it's not super reliable. But most of the time, it's pretty straightforward and pretty good. And I do use a lot of the meal prep recipes from there, and I still use them to this day. Granted, sometimes I will go back and look at the old recipes because I forget recipes, and honestly, I need to write them down one of these days. But those are just a couple of the ways that I utilize resources for cooking when I find it hard to actually do it myself, right? I've been buying the pre-made salads, and mainly because I don't know what goes on in salad making. I have never made a salad. I've made a fruit salad, and I figured it'd be the same thing, but also I really don't want to go through all the effort either. Like, just buying pre-made salads is just so much easier for me. They've honestly been really good for me. Like, I feel much better after like eating them because I'm eating healthier, and it feels like a light meal, but it still gives me some sense of fulfillment because there is something in my belly. And sometimes if I still feel a little more extra, I can't speak. Sometimes if I feel a little extra, sometimes if I'm feeling hungry, even after I've eaten my salad, that is why I stock up on fruits, grapes, apples. I've had plums this past week. Cantaloupe is phenomenal. But yeah, I love snacking on fruits. They've been very, very helpful for staving off any extra craving, any extra sweet cravings, to say the least. And I felt very, very good after doing all of these things. I don't know. I just wanted to share this with you guys. But anyways, after I did my little sit and think outside this morning, I didn't have tea this morning. I did have a sparkling water, and of course, Archie was out there chilling with me as usual. That cat is a little demon, but sometimes he's cool, just sometimes. After me and Archie were done chilling, I came inside and I started playing what's it called? Hogwarts Legacy. I think that's what it's called. Now, I know it's been out for a while, but hear me out. I am taking my time. I'm taking my time when it comes to gaming. I want to enjoy the process, and I do. I do about an hour each session, and Hogwarts Legacy is, I think, it's too slow right now. Now, granted, I am only about 10 hours in, and I still am only level 13. However, it feels like I am still in some sort of the tutorial phase, and it just feels very slow paced and like nothing's happening. Because a lot of it is because a lot of the story stuff right now is at the school where it's a safe zone and I'm not really doing anything and there's not that much going on, and the story hasn't even progressed that much, to be quite frank. Like, all I learned was, and actually I probably shouldn't give any spoilers for anyone who hasn't played, and I get it because there's a lot of content. I mean, there's fucking like wizard battles, there's the whole like spells and potions and herbology and broomstick flying and all the shops. Because when I do story games, I only focus on main story quests. But at this moment, all of the main story quests are still part of the quote-unquote tutorial phase, because I'm still learning all of these spells and how to use them and how to work with them, and there's not much story progression very early on, and I don't know if that'll change. I hope it will once I learn all the freaking 50 spells that you have to learn. Let's see. It's not even 50. It's more like about 30. But I am enjoying the game, and if you guys have played it, please let me know. Does it get to the point where it's not feeling like a tutorial and you're actually playing the game? And you're out and destroying mobs and just destroying other wizards and just fucking things up and doing whatever the hell you want? Like, does it get better? So if you have played the game, please let me know. On the bright side, I also did play Fortnite yesterday. I know it's an old game, but I got a massive dub yesterday. Now, I haven't played Fortnite, I haven't played a shooter game in forever, but I got a massive dub yesterday, and that felt so good. Now, you guys may say, well, it's an old game, of course you're going to get a massive dub. People don't play. Well, I don't give a fuck. I got a dub. That's all that matters, right? I was fucking ecstatic, and I chilled with Archie for the next, like, 2 hours after that, and just excited. But as I was reading this morning, I also learned different takes on how the discernation of ADHD is approached. Like, there are a couple of different ways that it is approached, and I found it super interesting because I always had this one-track mind of how it was approached because of just what I've heard and what I've learned. But this just opened up so many different like avenues of thought. So the model for ADHD is the school of thought that thinks in terms of inhibition and disinhibition rather than motivation or arousal. So my thinking before learning any of this was that ADHD was just something that caused a deficit in what's it called, dopamine, which is greatly tied into the motivation, the action, starting an action, whatever it was. And this model of ADD framed ADD as the inability to stop receiving messages rather than as the inability to receive the right messages. And so, I know that sounds so confusing, and trust me, I was confused at first, but the best way I can describe it is, instead of describing it as an inability to concentrate, it would rather be an ability to concentrate on everything, which makes so much sense because I was talking with Jeannie just about a month or two ago about her thoughts on ADHD, because she has ADHD and one of her children has the ADHD, and she framed it in such a way that people with ADHD are likely to experience so much more than we originally think. Like, they are likely to not focus. Obviously not, right? Fucking ADHD and focus. Yeah, what the fuck am I saying? Anyways, we are much more likely to take in a lot more, and that makes it harder for us to focus, for us to grasp exactly what we are taking, and it makes it tougher for us to just operate normally, what would be considered normal. And that was just an amazing insight, because it got me thinking about the way that I have framed my own ADHD and how I used to think of it, and now it allows me, because I feel like this framing is such a positive framework that allows for us to focus on the positives rather than the negatives. Because the initial thought that I had of ADHD being a deficit being a negative word, to now thinking, well, obviously I'm going to think of them both now, but to also thinking of it as, rather than an inability, again, negative word, to an ability, positive word. But I don't know. Take what you may from all of this. I'm just fucking ranting. I'm just fucking talking out of my ass. You guys can take what you want out of all this, you know? But anyway, that was just a nice little reframing that I found super interesting, and I just wanted to share it with anyone out there. And so I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I will see you guys again next time.